Here are your Court News Ohio top stories in 5 minutes. A man was sentenced to 27 years in prison for what a judge called the most serious fentanyl case in Richland County history. 24-year-old Deshaun Dowdell was convicted on 11 counts, including heroin and fentanyl trafficking. When searching his Mansfield apartment as part of a murder investigation in September, authorities recovered more than 500 grams of heroin and more than 600 grams of fentanyl, worth a reported street value of $245,000. Dowdell, who remains a suspect in a fatal shooting, was arrested after he fell through the ceiling as police searched his residence. The Thomas J. Moyer Ohio Judicial Center is full of history. There are a lot of portraits of famous faces. Many of them are men, but Ohio Supreme Court justices are trying to change that.
There does seem to be a level of confidence in our ability to do the job well, to do it with a sense of compassion, but also just recognizing being true to what the law means to all people in all walks of life.
In total, only 12 of the 161 justices have been women. But in the last 30 years, more females have served the state's high court than males.
No one ever said to me that you can't do this because you're a woman. So my experience, I think, is very different from the women who came just a generation before me. And so I don't take that for granted.
March represents Women's History Month. Along with the maternal encouragement they received, the current ladies of the court also had cultural motivators. They included the 4 women justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as social inspirations like Rosa Parks, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Anne Frank. For Justice Judith French, it was her boss, Ohio's first female Attorney General, Betty Montgomery.
She was a champion for me, and I think that's really important for young women to understand too, is really the difference. And we all will have mentors, men and women.
Since 2003, then Justice Maureen O'Connor started a similar legacy. She was part of the first woman majority bench for the state's court of last resort, then became the first female to lead it in 2010.
This I do.
As I shall answer unto God.
As I shall answer unto God.
Congratulations.
One of the values of that I see is as a role model for both young men and young women. You know, when say you're such a role model for women, well, I hope to say I'm a role model for men, too.
Having been part of a judiciary evolution in their professional lives, all the justices think that gender shouldn't be relevant. The focus should be on the message, not the messenger.
When you can take that qualifier out of the equation and be recognized for your talent and your dedication and hopefully your vision, I think that's where we want to be.
Ohio Supreme Court Justice Michael Donnelly was drawn to the legal profession by his desire to make a difference.
Judges, attorneys, all stakeholders have an obligation to work together and make the system better for the next generation.
He's experienced all kinds of outcomes, both as an assistant prosecutor and a civil suit lawyer, but nothing impacted him more than when he sentenced his first defendant as a trial court judge 14 years ago.
I could still remember the physical reaction that took place. It really hit me right then, the power of what we do as judges.
Since then, he's stood up and been on the front line, speaking to those who take part in these pivotal decisions.
Transparency is the most important ingredient in our criminal justice process.
It recently brought him before the Ohio Criminal Sentencing Commission. The commission is comprised of representatives from all facets, including judges, prosecutors, public defenders, law enforcement, legislators, and the executive branch. All parties work to assess and help enhance how criminal sentencing is done. On top of what he's learned behind the bench, like the merits of eliminating negotiations between lawyers in his chambers and having all discussions in open court,
everything became more clear on the record.
He also presented multiple suggestions to help get information to those who need it, like a statewide database tracking all criminal cases and analyzing the liberties judges have during sentencing.
Why do some judges in the state accept agreed sentences between the prosecutor and the defense counsel, and why some do not?
It's all part of a process he'll be even more immersed in now that he's a member of the state's high court.
I look forward to opportunities to work with all of you in this room, finding solutions together as we work towards making a better justice system. Thank you.
And that's a look at Court News Ohio's top stories. Visit courtnewsohio.gov for the latest headlines on Ohio's courts. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.